Hello there and welcome to our space. I am so incredibly glad you decided to click on this video today because what we are about to discuss isn't just a story about time management or waking up early. It is a deep dive into the psychology of transformation and the quiet power of the human spirit. If you feel like you've been drifting, or if life feels like a heavy weight you're dragging uphill, please stay with me for the next 40 minutes. We are going to explore how a single disciplined shift in your internal clock can actually rewire your brain and save your relationships. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the human mind. Before we begin this journey together, I want us to set an intention for this session. Down in the comments, I'd like you to type a psychology-based affirmation to anchor your mind. Type, "I choose clarity," or "I am becoming aware." This simple act of typing your intention actually engages the motor cortex and the prefrontal cortex, signaling to your brain that you are ready to receive and process new information. It's a small step, but in the world of psychology, small steps are the only way to build a mountain. I'll be reading through those comments later to see the energy we are building together as a community. Imagine for a moment a man named Elias. Elias wasn't a hero in a movie. He was a man exhausted by the mundane. He worked a job that drained his soul, came home to a partner he barely spoke to, and felt the crushing weight of being poor. Not just in his bank account, but in his spirit. He felt what psychologists often call learned helplessness. A state where you've been beaten down by circumstances so many times that you stop trying to find the exit door even when it's wide open. His life was a cycle of reacting to the world rather than acting upon it. He woke up at the last possible second, rushed to a job he hated, and returned home too tired to be the man his partner deserved. The breaking point for Elias didn't come from a grand tragedy. It came from the silence of his kitchen at 11 p.m. while he ate a cold dinner alone. He realized that if he didn't change the architecture of his day, the architecture of his life would eventually collapse. He decided to do something radical for a man who loved sleep. He decided to claim the 5 a.m. hour. He didn't know then that he was about to engage in a profound psychological experiment on himself. By shifting his wake time, he was moving from a reactive state to a proactive state, which is the cornerstone of psychological resilience. Please, take a second to subscribe to the channel so we can continue exploring these life-changing shifts together. When Elias first started waking up at 5 a.m., it wasn't poetic. It was painful. His brain screamed for the comfort of the blankets. This is what we call homeostatic sleep pressure, but beyond the biology there was a psychological battle. Research from the University of California, Davis, suggests that our ability to regulate our emotions and impulses is a finite resource that gets depleted throughout the day, a concept known as ego depletion. By waking up early, Elias was giving his best self to his own growth before the world could demand a piece of him. He was finally investing in his own mental equity. As the sun began to peek through his window during those early weeks, Elias started to notice something strange. The world felt different when it was quiet. According to Dr. Helen Fisher, a renowned biological anthropologist, the brain's chemistry in the early morning can be uniquely primed for focus and dopamine regulation if we approach it with purpose. Elias wasn't just drinking coffee. He was practicing mindfulness-based stress reduction without even knowing the term. He was sitting with his thoughts instead of running from them. If you're finding value in this breakdown of the mind, please subscribe to the channel and join our growing family of thinkers. The impact on his relationship was perhaps the most shocking part of this journey. For years, Elias and his partner had been drifting. John Gottman, a leading expert in relationship stability, often speaks about the 4 horsemen that signal the end of a relationship: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. Elias realized he had been stonewalling his partner because he was too exhausted to engage. By 5 a.m., he had time to process his own frustrations. He began to show up at the breakfast table not as a tired ghost, but as a present partner. He was no longer too tired to listen. Elias started practicing what the Kinsey Institute often highlights as the importance of emotional intimacy through shared presence. Because he had already worked on himself by 7 a.m., he had the emotional surplus to give to his partner. He wasn't looking to her to fill his cup because he had already filled it himself in the silence of the dawn. This is a crucial psychological shift, moving from a needing attachment style to a giving one. If this resonates with you or a situation you've been in, please hit that like button to let me know you're following along. It is often said that poverty is not just a lack of money, but a lack of hope. In a study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, researchers found that financial stress creates a tunneling effect in the brain, where individuals can only focus on immediate survival, losing the ability to plan for the future. By reclaiming his mornings, Elias broke the tunnel. He started reading, learning about financial literacy, and most importantly, believing he was worthy of a different life. He was retraining his locus of control from external to internal. The change wasn't overnight, and it wasn't easy. There were mornings when the cold floor felt like an enemy. But Elias remembered a quote by the psychologist Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. For Elias, 5 a.m. was that space. It was the gap between the stimulus of his difficult life and his response to it. He was finally choosing freedom over comfort. If you want more research-backed insights like this, please subscribe to Psychology Wave and help us reach more people. As the months passed, Elias's career began to shift as well. Not because he was working more hours, but because he was working with more clarity. Oxford University research into cognitive performance shows that our peak alertness levels are highly dependent on our circadian rhythms and how we manage our first few hours of wakefulness. Elias was no longer entering his workplace in a sleep fog. He was sharp, he was attentive, and he was calm. His colleagues noticed, his boss noticed, and eventually, the opportunities he thought were reserved for lucky people started finding their way to him. http://googleusercontent.com/image_content/208. This journey taught Elias that the poor man wasn't a permanent identity. It was a state of mind reinforced by habits. When we talk about relationship-focused psychology, we must realize that our relationship with ourselves is the blueprint for every other connection we have. If you are constantly breaking promises to yourself, like hitting the snooze button 6 times, you are subconsciously teaching yourself that you aren't trustworthy. Elias stopped breaking those promises. He built self-efficacy, which is the belief in one's ability to succeed in specific situations. Please take a moment to subscribe and support the channel so we can keep sharing these stories of transformation. Think about your own life. Is there a 5 a.m. waiting for you? It might not literally be 5 in the morning, but it is that space where you take control. Are you giving your partner the leftovers of your day? Or are you showing up with a full heart? According to research in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, prosocial behavior, acting out of a desire to help others, actually increases the helper's own well-being. By Elias becoming a better man for himself in the morning, he naturally became a better man for his partner, creating a positive feedback loop that saved their home. Elias eventually moved out of that small, dark apartment. He didn't just find a better job, he created a better environment. But when you ask him what changed everything, he doesn't point to his bank statement. He points to his alarm clock. He points to the quiet moments when he chose to face his shadows instead of sleeping through them. He learned that the greatest wealth is the mastery of one's own mind. If you've enjoyed this exploration of Elias's journey, please subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who might be struggling to find their way. As we bring this story to a close, let's look at the 4 major lessons Elias's journey teaches us about the human psyche. First, self-governance is the foundation of freedom. You cannot control the economy or your boss, but you can control the first hour of your day. This creates an internal locus of control that buffers you against depression and anxiety. Second, emotional surplus is required for healthy relationships. You cannot pour from an empty cup. By prioritizing his own mental health in the early hours, Elias had the energy to practice active listening and empathy with his partner. The third lesson is that small wins build neural pathways. Every morning Elias got out of bed when his brain wanted to stay. He was strengthening his prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for willpower and long-term planning. Over time, discipline becomes easier because you've literally physically rewired your brain. Finally, the fourth lesson, perspective is a choice. Elias realized that his poverty was partly a result of his reactive lifestyle. By changing his schedule, he changed his perspective, and by changing his perspective, he changed his reality. I want to thank you for spending this time with me. It's a beautiful thing to invest in your own understanding of the mind. Before you go, please like this video if it gave you a new perspective, and don't forget to subscribe to Psychology Wave for more research-backed psychological insights. Your support allows us to keep creating content that helps people navigate the complexities of life and love. Now, as we finish, I want you to head back to the comments. I want you to leave a closing affirmation. Type clarity and confidence, or aware and empowered. Let this be the final seal on our session today. Remember, the sun will rise tomorrow whether you are awake to see it or not. But your life changes only when you decide to meet the light halfway. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next video.